have fun with semen retention, being able to direct. It is, I mean, great. Like if you just really cultivate some sexual energy, not be a dogmatic extremist about it, but just notice that that's a thing and be, relatively conscious about be conscious about your expression, and don't just be spending all that energy all the time unconsciously. Like you're going to be able to think a lot clearer, and maybe that will have profound impacts on the human level, in the sense of like the difference between feeling like less stressed and foggy headed and clearer and more energized. Well, that can like take you to a very different reality. But just know that who you really are is infinite and can have an expression of infinite realities. So it's just one of many dreams, but you can have fun with concepts like semen retention in this dream. I remember when I first like heard about NoFap and I tried it out, and I was like, I remember saying to myself, like, this is the most, I've done everything. I've done Wim Hof method, yoga, like I've swam in the sea in Iceland, I've tried to have the best diet and everything, but this like retaining your seed, it was really profound in the level of like energy and like new confidence. And so that's probably why I've talked about it and why people are so interested in it. So it's just as relevant. It's just not, and it is completely relevant in terms of non-duality. It's just not relevant to discovering your true nature.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So a quick question to follow that up. So would you consider NoFap to be something, obviously different realms of things, but would you consider it to be similar to like lifting weights? It's just improving your physical, like human health, but not necessarily anything beyond that?
Well, it's like a practice in energy direction, as it were. It's like, which circuits are you running? Mm-hmm. It's almost like a test for the on the human level of like, can you experience this pain of craving and not act on it, and just experience. So it relates to non-duality in that way, because if you're resting as your true nature of awareness, it's more likely that there's going to be this expression on the person level where the person realizes that this isn't going to bring lasting peace, permanent fulfillment. So maybe it does less of the more compulsive expressions of that. And within that, the kind of like energy builds up. And then, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That definitely makes a lot of sense. All right. Yeah.
It's always been a fascination with me for sure. Like, because I've also experienced like oh wow, like I never knew that I had this power inside me, but it is crazy.
Yeah, as well. I mean, it's like we have these concepts that help to balance things out. It's like with anything, with any source of dopamine, so with any source of like pleasure on the pleasure pain cycle, we're having more and more ability through like this appearance of time to augment reality in a way that just hits that button. And people like us were born in still relatively young, I think, but I like you was born in I mean, it's going to be even more intense for you, assuming that you're younger, but we're sort of born into this era of it being so malleable. Like you could just bring up when in human history have you been able to instantly bring up an image of anything that you want to see ever?
Yeah.
And now even more so, you can literally imagine anything, and it's just like, and so it's like we have this question to ask, and it becomes more and more relevant the younger you are. Like, where is that energy going? Like, what am I, what, currency, if dopamine is kind of like a currency or like a breadcrumb trail of like where your motivation's going. You may be very motivated to, have sex or use pornography or whatever, but it's like, it's not saying there's anything right or wrong with that. It's just very interesting to look at like the difference sometimes between how you actually really want to live your life and what you actually end up doing purely because there is this increasing ability in the world just to create a dopamine hit that you can go for. And this kind of like stepping back from that and going like, what are we actually creating here? And how do we want to express ourselves, still have pleasure, but what do we actually want? Do we want to be alone in our room, like with just never ending digital novelty? I mean, maybe if it's ethical. I'm not saying there's anything right or wrong with it, but some people may not choose to do that, and they don't think they want that, and yet they feel so tied to it in the way that they do like Facebook or Instagram, because in the same way like porn, like, and Facebook and Instagram, that it's like casino psychology. It's little kind of hits that just keep you going, little bits of novelty that just keep you going. So semen retention is like that one. It's like the ultimate. It's almost like people see it as the ultimate version of that test, as it were, because what is more primal to a human than its ability to reproduce?
Right. Yeah, and like all these little hits that we get are just constantly tangling our wires, so to speak. And yeah, we kind of don't realize where that energy is going and what we're even doing really. And then, and then we put ourselves in positions by just frying our brains with all this stuff and that we don't want to be in, pretty much.
Yeah. And there's a kind of awakening that happens on the human level there, as it were, that we realize that there's just these things, there's just these tracks that we're running along that are becoming increasingly harder to get out of. And it's like we're really being asked in a way, like reality is evolving in a way that we're really being asked to, or being forced, this is not quite the right words, but you get what I mean, compelled maybe is the right word, to become very clear about what we want and what our intentions are. Because if you look at neuroscience, even on a level of neuroscience, it's like that prefrontal cortex activity coming in with like a decision to do something, clarity about why, like connection to one's deeper self or whatever. It's like those are the things that that's what has someone overcome addiction. It's like what we call being conscious or whatever, being aware. So there's kind of like a bit of crossover confusion there, as it was like you'd be more aware. There is a kind of more aware on the human level, as in like clearer in your thinking and in your sort of your present, this connection to this presence and this awareness about what you do and don't want to do. So this, on that level, it's kind of compelling us to do that. And so many people are asking questions like about this. And this is a very common thing with people that come to me. It's like, I'm doing this thing, like I'm using this, or I'm doing this, or I'm engaging with Tinder or relationships or pornography or social media. It's those are like massive ones now. It used to be like drugs, and it's obviously like drugs still there, but it's like these are the new drugs for so many people.